welcome to the first episode of Coming Soon Movie News with Nicholson. I'm your host, and on this show, we're essentially going to be breaking down all of the day's movie news and kind of what it means for the overall production in general, such as casting news, when the trailers are announced or anything of that sort. We're going to be breaking all that stuff down on this show and going over what it all means in general. For the first week, what we're going to do is I'm going to be spending each episode breaking down one of the major releases that's going to be coming out within the next few years, and I'd figured what better film to start that off with than the new untitled Batman Superman film, or Man of Steel 2. So we're going to be talking about what we officially know, what the studio has talked about, as well as the rumor mill, kind of what things have been spread out, but the studio has not actually backed yet. So without further ado, the first thing that we do know about the movie is it was originally announced for a July 2015 release date and has now since been pushed back to May of 2016. The reason that this has happened, the studio hasn't officially come out and stated as to why, other than they just wanted to give themselves more time. Now, they did this right on the heels of being able to start filming, and they've pushed it back now almost a full year. That leads most people to believe that they are actually going to be filming Man of Steel 2 or Batman vs. Superman or whatever they're going to end up calling it, back to back with a Justice League movie. And for those of you who don't know what Justice League is, it's essentially the Avengers for Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, and I could keep going on and on and on. But we know that Warner Brothers has that in the plans. We know that that is going to eventually be coming. They are trying to play catch up to Marvel, which has been doing a phenomenal job up to this point. But Warner Brothers just kind of keeps pushing everything back. They keep delaying things. They tried first with Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, and that did not do very well. No fault really to Ryan Reynolds. I thought he was quite good in the movie, but just the overall story, the adherence to special effects, but lacking in the special effects department. But we could talk about that forever. And then they started with Man of Steel. Man of Steel was a tremendous success. It was a great film. Had a lot of controversial elements to it, but I thought that really established this new Superman universe and the new DC universe that they're trying to work on. Now, with the inclusion of Batman, we know that Wonder Woman's going to be in the movie as well. There's speculation that Aquaman may be showing up as well, leading further rumors to speculate that Justice League is going to be filmed back to back. But we don't know yet. They haven't actually come out and confirmed it yet. So it's kind of odd that they haven't, why they pushed it back for a year. Rumor was going around that Ben Affleck had actually injured his leg, but within a couple of days he was seen walking no problem at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. So we really just don't know what's going on. Hopefully we're going to be getting some announcements pretty soon, or worst case scenario, we'll be getting them at Comic-Con this summer. So this is going to be classified as a sequel to Man of Steel. It is not going to be a kind of separate film. Superman is going to be the main figure in this film. They have come out and confirmed that. But Ben Affleck as Batman is going to be having roughly the same amount, if not a little bit less, screen time. So there's going to be a lot of time devoted to him. But we still don't know exactly what's going to happen. They have confirmed that Wonder Woman is in the film. Gal Gadot will be playing her, but they've stated that it's not going to be that big of a role. Now, that could mean that she's in it for about 20 minutes. That could also mean that she just shows up as Diana, not as Wonder Woman. We really don't know. There haven't been any costume fittings yet. Gal Gadot has been going to the gym, working out. She has a slightly smaller figure, but she has been going out and working out. She just released a photo, I believe, this afternoon, showing her muscles. I have to put that in quotes. One of the things they've also confirmed is that the inspiration for the film, or at least part of the inspiration, comes from Mark Millar's graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns. Now, in The Dark Knight Returns, it's about an older Batman, and I know they're not going this old with Ben Affleck, but in this, in Dark Knight Returns, sorry, Batman is essentially about 55, and he's been retired now for about 5 to 10 years. And through certain circumstances, he ends up getting pulled back into that vigilantism, being Batman and whatnot. So it could be that because they have said that Ben Affleck is going to be playing a seasoned Batman, that we could be seeing a Batman who has been retired for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, or maybe just 2 years. Might not even have been retired at all. Just that's the only part of that storyline that makes sense. Also in that book, Superman is working for the government. and I don't see him already now working for the government. They tried to play that up with him working with the Colonel or General at the end of Man of Steel, but I don't believe that that's going to be further expanded on all that much in the next one. It's going to be more so the focus between Bruce Wayne and Batman, both trying to figure out what this Superman character is, or Kal-El, or whatever they're going to refer to him as in the movie. So going back to talking about how it's actually a sequel of Man of Steel, there have been a couple of leaked titles that have gone online, which we don't know if they are accurate or not, but some of the titles include Man of Steel Beyond Darkness, Man of Steel The Darkness Within, Man of Steel Battle the Night, Night spelled with a K. I don't know if there's any validity to these. They ran online about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and nothing's really been brought up ever since about that. It's still being just referred to as Batman versus Superman, but we still don't have an official title. In December, Ben Affleck, as what we assume is as part of his actual contract, was he has a little bit more creative control over the project than most other actors would coming in. Ben Affleck, being a seasoned director already, directed 3 films with Gone Baby Gone, and then he followed that up with The Town, which was phenomenal, and then he just came out last year or the year before with Argo, which ended up winning Best Picture. He's now brought in his Argo screenwriter, who won the Academy Award, to come in and either touch up or potentially rewrite this Batman vs. Superman Man of Steel 2. With this delay, because they haven't come out and announced if there is going to be a back-to-back filming status with another film, potentially Justice League, could even be a Batman standalone film, could even be a Wonder Woman film. We really just don't know at this point. But with him coming in and now them announcing after about a month of him coming on that the movie's now delayed by 10 months, we really just don't know the status of what his rewrite is. If it's just a touch-up, if he's gone in to just clean up the dialogue, or if he's brought up bigger story points, if they're splitting Man of Steel into 2 films and shooting that back to back. There's a lot of speculation going around, so we really don't quite know. Just the fact that they now have an Academy Award-winning screenwriter on board with this. So, oh, and one more thing, they have actually already started filming. They filmed a sequence back in the fall. It was a football sequence between a college in Gotham and a college in Metropolis. Not really sure how that's going to play into the film, but it was kind of interesting that shortly after they had announced it, that they had started filming. Now, again, it was just this one little sequence that they filmed on 1 or 2 days. So now let's get into the rumor part. So one rumor, not necessarily a rumor, he has come out and stated that he's seen it. We just don't know exactly what it's going to be, and he hasn't really described a lot of it. But Kevin Smith, who is a writer-director, he's big in the online status right now. A lot of people might know him from the Jay and Silent Bob movies. He actually played Silent Bob, but he wrote and directed all of those movies. He's a very, very good friend of Ben Affleck. They've been friends now for well over 20 years. And Kevin Smith has actually been shown the suit. Zack Snyder himself actually showed Kevin Smith the suit. And he says that it's very Jim Lee, which I will show the graphic on screen right now to kind of give you an example of what they mean by that. Now, this is not anything confirmed by the studio. Kevin Smith just stated that he was speaking with Zack Snyder and that he was shown the suit. He actually said there are 2 suits in the movie. One of them looks like it's either an armored suit or potentially laced with kryptonite. It's kind of the only way that he would actually be able to fight Superman without Superman just kind of flicking his finger and sending him halfway around the world. I'm going to assume that it's going to be more a kryptonite-laced suit than anything. The main reason that I state that is because even with armor, Superman is still going to be as strong as he is, whereas if it's kryptonite-laced, then he's going to be brought a little bit more normal, a little bit more into Batman's league, so that Batman at least has a chance. And an interesting note as well is that also means that if that's the case, they are going to have to figure out a way to introduce kryptonite in this film, because anyone who saw Man of Steel knows that kryptonite was never even talked about. The closest thing was his effect when he was in fighting the World Machine at the end, which is kind of, there's a couple of rumors going around online that the effect that that machine had on the Earth, the short time that it was actually operational, that it has transferred part of the Earth, whether it be just rock or iron or whatever materials on the planet, into a kryptonite-like material, which if anyone from that planet goes close to it, then they will become weaker. Um, we still don't really know. They haven't come out with anything like that, and remember, it's now coming out in May of 2016, so we still have almost 2.5 years before this movie comes out. There's a lot of time for them to release some new information. Um, yeah, so again, one of the rumors is that they will be filming the Justice League back to back, although we don't have any confirmation. It's either going to be that, or it's going to be that they've now expanded this story so much that they are filming Man of Steel 2 and 3 back to back as one long storyline. Um, Another rumor going around online is that Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor, who has been confirmed to be in the movie as well, Jesse Eisenberg will be playing him. I'll get more into that a little bit later. That they will be both working together kind of as philanthropists, they're both insanely rich, both heads of multinational corporations. Most likely are going to be working together to rebuild Metropolis or to help with rebuilding Metropolis, but not knowing each other's identities. So Bruce Wayne will not know that Lex Luthor is this nefarious villain. Lex Luthor will not know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And part of that rumor also goes to that Batman is actually going to be showcased as a detective, which it's been a long time. I actually can't even remember if he's been identified as a detective truly in the movies yet. You've kind of seen him just looking for people and using a scope to look into an area to make him see a little bit better, but outside of that, actually using detective skills. My assumption is that he's going to know that Superman is Clark Kent. Either at the beginning of the movie before it begins or very shortly into it, and then using his detective skills to further go down that rabbit hole. And then eventually he's going to see Superman as a threat. They're going to fight. They're going to discover that both of them are after the same thing, and then they're going to both team up and then fight whoever the villain is. The main villain, I'm assuming that they're going to go with another villain. They can't just have Lex Luthor again. That means that it's probably going to be another land scheme. If that's it, I don't see any hope for this film. It's going to be the same as Superman Returns, which was the same as Superman 2, which was the same as Superman 1. It was the same storyline over and over again. And him just wanting more land, I don't see that happening. There's a lot of credence going around that Brainiac will be introduced as the second villain or the main villain, whoever ends up taking over that mantle. It makes the most sense. Basically, the Lex Luthor of Krypton. Very, very, very smart individual. Be interesting to see if that's the route that they go. Like I stated also that more superheroes are rumored to show up. Jason Momoa, who was Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones, he was also Conan in the Conan reboot. He's been linked to potentially starring in the movie, either as a hero or a villain. If he was a villain, I can see him being Doomsday. I don't want them to use Doomsday yet. I want Doomsday to be a part of a Man of Steel standalone film, or potentially even a Justice League movie, because Doomsday could really, really be a great villain. Outside of that, he could potentially be maybe Aquaman. It's been a rumor going around as well. Aquaman has seen a little bit of a resurgence in the last few years in the comics. He was always seen as that kind of dopey guy who, if you were standing on land, he couldn't do anything. Wore green tights, just kind of looked ridiculous. They've really revamped him, and he looks really, really badass, especially in what's it called? Injustice: Gods Among Us. The video game comic book collaboration that they did. They really retooled him in that and made him look really cool. So that'd be really interesting if that was to come out in that sense, but we still don't know. Again, it's still all rumor. It's still mostly conjecture. This is all just coming from the online movie sphere. It's not coming from the studio at all. It's not coming from Zack Snyder. It's not coming from David Goyer, who was one of the writers, Chris Terrio, the other writer. Anybody involved with the film has not announced anything like this. And the final rumor that's going around is one of the main reasons that Ben Affleck was selected as Batman is because of his directing skills and the fact that he signed on with the line in his contract stating that he would direct either one of the standalone, or if not all of the standalone Batman films, or potentially the Justice League movie. Again, rumor, but it makes sense. It makes sense why Ben Affleck, who's been in this directing gig for a while now, he's got another one planned as soon as, I believe it's planned as soon as he's finished filming Man of Steel 2, Batman vs Superman, whatever they're going to call it. So for him to sign a contract stating that he will be available for, I'm assuming, 3, 4, 5, 6 films, potentially even more if you're factoring in Justice League movies and Man of Steel 2. I'm going to assume 7. I'm going to assume 3 Justice League movies, 3 Batman standalone movies, and this Man of Steel 2. So if that's the case, that's him reserving a lot of his time coming up. And directors spend a lot of, like, they spend a year and a half, 2 years a lot of the time on movies. People often forget that the filming of a movie is usually between 2 and 5 months on average, 5 months usually being for something like the Avengers or Batman vs. Superman, 2 months being something a little bit more smaller scale. That's just filming. Pre-production, which is everything that leads up to them being ready to film, the sets being built, the casting done, costume designs, the camera equipment, the location scouting, everything that's involved has to happen and be finished before they start filming, and that's usually at least 6 months to a year. And then once you're done filming, you then have post-production, which is putting the first cut of the movie together, then getting the special effects and the audio all ready and done, getting the music tracks laid out, potentially doing reshoots. And that can usually take between 6 months and a year, sometimes 2 years. Look at Avatar. Avatar was filmed over 2 years before it came out. And it took 2 years for them to put it together. So with all of that, it's difficult to assume that Ben Affleck would have signed on without the intent to direct one of these projects, because he's going to be spending already so much of his next decade in film, most likely, playing Batman. So it's going to be really interesting once they decide to actually announce some of this information. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're probably not going to get anything before Comic-Con. We may get an image of the Batsuit. We may even get the first image of Superman and Batman on screen together, that would be kind of cool. But I don't think we're going to get anything before Comic-Con, which will be at the end of July. So yeah, this has been the first episode of Coming Soon, Movie News with Ad Nicholson. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you click down at the bottom of the page here, you'll see the subscribe option. Please subscribe. And also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, my handle is Nicholson, Niklsun. I'll be giving out all relevant movie information as it comes out, and then later on that day I will be putting out a video to talk about what has come out about that day. So the normal the normal flow of this show is going to be about the newly released movie information. However, at this time there's not a lot of movie information coming out, or at least not enough to make a full show about yet. So that's why I'm spending the first 5 days doing one episode per big upcoming release. Today's was obviously Batman vs. Superman. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy. There is a rumor, and it's all but been confirmed, that the trailer for that film will be premiering tomorrow. Hopefully that'll be out before I record the show so we can talk about it. Really looking forward to that picture. It's the biggest risk that Marvel has taken so far, and it's also going to be the final film that leads into the Avengers. So we're going to have a lot to talk about with that. But until next time, this has been Nicholson, and it's been great. See ya.